let's start with our motivation. For a moment, recall the defects of the self-centered attitude, how it's played out in your life, how it pretends to look after your own welfare, but really the self-centeredness makes us very prickly, easily offended, greedy, jealous, and so on. And so seeing this self-centered thought as our enemy, let's have a strong determination to not follow it, and instead to replace it with the mind that wants to be of benefit to others, that the mind that looks upon others with kindness, sees others in beauty. And think of how good that would feel just within ourselves, to be free of the self-centeredness and to have that kind heart that genuinely cares about others. And so let's make a determination to practice in that way, to cultivate that, so that we can progress on the path to full awakening, and then really be of great service to all beings. And so we're always saying to be of service to all beings, but let's also start with the people in front of us, trying to be of service to them with a good motivation. Okay. So when we think about these great bodhisattvas and we're going over how they practice and their deeds, it's important to remember that they all started out like us, with all the same craziness going on in their minds. But they really trained their mind to see the self-centeredness as the enemy, and to replace it with the mind that cherishes others. So if they can do that, then we can certainly train our mind and do the same thing. Anyway, we've followed the self-centered thought since beginningless time, and look where it's gotten us. So might as well try something different. And anyway, we always want things that are new and different, right? Mm-hmm. You know? That's what the advertising, new, improved. So this is going to be a new, improved me if we drop the self-centeredness and cherish others. Okay. So we're going to be talking tonight, starting with the eighth grounder. Yeah, so these are very, very special bodhisattvas, because on the eighth ground they have eliminated all the afflictive obscurations. So that means the ignorance, the afflictions, all their seeds, and all the karma that causes rebirth and cyclic existence. So all that's been completely purified from the mind in such a way that it can never come back again. That's really nice. Yeah. Okay, so the eighth ground is called the immovable, and like all the other ones, it has 4 parts. So the first one is the mode of achieving qualities on the eighth ground. So on this ground, one achieves each of the 12 sets of good qualities explained previously, equal to the number of minute particles of 100,000 realms of 1,000 great billion worlds. So a lot. Okay? So don't worry about the numbers, and if the numbers seem inconceivable, that's the point, you know, that, but you know, there's so much inconceivable, isn't there? And we're you know, sometimes when they talk about negativities and the effects of karma, it's like, you know, you can't believe all, you know, all this is inconceivable. But when they talk about the good things too, that's all inconceivable. So, you know, it's the same in both directions, both ways. Yeah, so it's nice to know that, you know, good qualities, you know, in this equal to the number of minute particles of 100,000 realms of 1,000 great billion worlds. Okay. Then the second one is the mode of achieving mastery, majesty of power on the eighth ground. When having just attained this ground, at the time of actualizing the non-conceptual exalted wisdom, which is without coarse exertion, the Buddhas of the 10 directions arouse the Bodhisattva from meditative equipoise and exhort him or her to accumulate the collection of merit in subsequent attainment. The Bodhisattva, so when all that has happened, the Bodhisattva has passed beyond the youthful grounds and stopped the nirvana possessing selfish thoughts. Okay, so what this means is when you've just attained, you know, the uninterrupted path and then the liberated path of the lower part of the eighth ground, okay, that non-conceptual exalted wisdom that's directly focused on emptiness is without coarse exertion. I would assume because the afflictions have been overcome. So that you don't need to exert yourself to have that kind of wisdom in any way. So at that time, okay, you're in meditative equipoise, probably finished the uninterrupted path, you're on the liberated path, and it's like so nice because there's no more afflictions. Yeah, you just kind of want to hang out there. It's really nice. But at that time, the Buddhas of the 10 directions rouse the Bodhisattva from meditative equipoise and exhort him or her to accumulate the collection of merit in subsequent times and subsequent attainment. So even though it's so blissful because you've eliminated all the afflictions, and you're kind of on par, you know, in terms of eliminating the afflictions, you're on par with an arhat. You know, you get awoken right away by the Buddhists. They come and say, you know, don't oversleep this morning. You've gotten so far, you really have to continue. Okay? And so at that time, the Bodhisattva has passed beyond the youthful grounds, which refer to the first to the seventh bhumi. I guess because you're young then, you still have the afflictions. And they've also stopped the nirvana possessing self-centered thoughts. So that is the nirvana of an arhat, which is, you know, focused on their own personal liberation, their own personal peace. So Bodhisattva never desires their own personal peace alone. Sure, they want their own personal peace, but not alone, not as the foremost thing. Okay. So the Bodhisattva stopped all of that, and then in accordance with the exhortations of the Buddhas, one amasses the collection of merit for measureless eons for the sake of abandoning the obstructions to omniscience. So here we're not talking countless great eons anymore, because between the 8th, 9th, and 10th, that's one countless great eons. Here we're just talking measureless eons in the 8th ground, so standard eons, not the great ones, okay? It's a little bit shorter time. But you have to accumulate so much merit so as to strengthen the force of your wisdom, so that now that the afflictions have been eliminated, you can start to eliminate the cognitive obscurations. Okay, so the afflictions, are all mental factors, they're states of mind. The cognitive obscurations are the latencies of the afflictions. Okay, so there's a difference between a seed of an affliction and a latency of an affliction. The seed of an affliction is what carries the energy of the affliction between I got angry yesterday and I get angry today. So even though I'm not angry that whole time, there's something that carries the potency or the potential of the anger even when I'm not angry. That's the seed of the affliction. Yeah, so that's been eliminated at the 8th ground. But the latencies of the afflictions are like the subtle trace there. They aren't states of mind, but they obscure the mind so that the mind can't see all phenomena. So they often say, like if you cook onions in a pot, the onions are like the afflictions and the seeds of the afflictions. Even you take the onions out, the pot still smells. So the latencies are like the smell left over. Okay, and then the latencies, the way they pollute the mind, is they cause this kind of appearance of true existence or a perception of true existence. They're still making it so that when you see things, they appear to you as truly existent. So it's still contaminating the mind in that way. And so due to these latencies and then the appearance of true existence, then the mind is still covered into some kind of obscuration so that it's prevented from seeing all phenomena. So then you want to get rid of those cognitive obscurations so then you can perceive all phenomena. Okay? Sometimes people translate it, the obscurations, to knowledge, meaning knowing all things. Okay? So, so you have to accumulate all this merit so that your wisdom is strong enough to eliminate those latencies. Thereby one abandons, so this is on the 8th ground, thereby one abandons the great of the predispositions for mistaken dualistic appearances on the upper half of the 8th ground. So on the lower part of the 8th ground, you abandon the afflictions. On the upper part, you're abandoning the great latencies. The great latencies that obscure, omniscience. Okay. So that's abandoned on the upper part of the 8th ground. So that's mistaken dualistic appearance and the latencies that cause them. And then through amassing the collection of merit again, one is able to move to the 9th ground. So after you've gotten rid of the great affliction, great latencies on the upper half of the 8th ground, then again, you're going to be going into meditative equipoise. When you feel that equipoise is strong enough, then that pushes you into the 9th ground, the uninterrupted path of the 9th ground, the liberated path of the 9th ground, where you are actualizing, you're achieving an actual antidote to the middling of the middling latencies for mistaken dualistic appearance. Okay, so those are, the great ones are abandoned on the upper part of the 8th, the middle latencies on the 9th ground. Okay, and then on the 10th ground, you have the big of the small latencies and then the small of the small latencies to abandon. Okay, or the coarse, they may call it coarse and subtle there, I think. Then the third outline is the mode of surpassing practice of a perfection or a far-reaching practice on the 8th ground. So by way of dedicating in the manner, so this is how the practitioner dedicates. You dedicate in the manner of non-observation of agent, object, and activity as inherently existent. the virtues of the 6 far-reaching practices, giving and so forth, of oneself and others, which were, are, and will be accumulated in the 3 times as causes of complete enlightenment for the sake of others, and by way of planting various aspiration prayers, one achieves a surpassing practice of far-reaching aspirational prayers. That's one sentence. Okay, so you're practicing dedicating. And when it talks about non-observation here, sometimes it's translated as non-objectifying, something like that, or without an object. When we say migme tsewe, okay, that's the migme. Yeah, so there's no inherently existent object of that perception. That's what it's referring to. Okay, so you're dedicating by seeing the agent, the object, and the action all as empty of true existence because they are dependent on each other, dependent on names and concept, dependent on causes and condition, dependent on parts. Okay, and so you're dedicating, all this merit of the 6, of the 6 far-reaching practices, probably you could say the 10, because the 10 are included in the 6, that from the past, from the present, from the future, that you have created, that all sentient beings have created, and so all of that virtue, by contemplating the agent, action, and object as empty, then you're dedicating that as causes for complete awakening. Okay, so these are like the really big kind of dedications, where you just think of all your own merit and others' merit, and the merit in the past, the present, the future, this whole huge, enormous kind of merit, and then seeing it all as empty, and yourself as empty, and enlightenment is empty, and sentient beings is empty, and all these things, and yet this all existing because it depends on each other, then you dedicate it all for the highest supreme enlightenment awakening. Okay? And then, by way of planting various aspiration prayers, one achieves a surpassing practice of far-reaching aspirational prayers. So that's the far-reaching practice on this one. On the previous ground, it was method or skillful means, and here it's aspirational prayers. So this is a difficult word to translate. It's mulam, and it's often translated as prayers, but it's not really prayers, because when we think of prayers, we think of petitioning somebody, may I have this, may I have that. And this isn't like that. It's more, and so the Tibetans translate it as prayer, so that's not really the case. The Chinese translated it as vows, but that's also not the case, because we think of vows as, you take a vow to do something or not to do something, and you take it from somebody else, and if you break it, it's, really bad and stuff like that. So it's not exactly that. So it's somehow in between that. There's an element of aspiration to it, but there's also very strong determination and resolution. Okay, so the Bodhisattva at this point is setting very strong determinations, aspirations in their mind for how they want to be able to benefit sentient beings. So we can start doing that now at our own level. We sometimes make different aspirations. May I be able to do this or that or the other thing for sentient beings. We make the aspirations for this lifetime, but we should also think of, what we want to be able to do when we're a bodhisattva, how, just special ways we want to be able to benefit sentient beings. Because we may have certain kind of things that we feel closer to. Certain kind of problems or beings, I'm sure you're going to be the bodhisattva of ants and bees and anything with 4 legs that, walks around. You're going to be the one who liberates them. Okay, and you're going to be the bodhisattva who cooks for everybody. Yeah, and make sure they're all well nourished, physically and also in the Dharma. Yeah, so there's different tendencies we may have for this. Okay, so these are actually strong determinations. It's something more than a wish or an aspiration and a prayer, but it's a strong determination to do very particular great deeds to benefit sentient beings. Okay, and so this far-reaching practice is about making very strong resolutions that are so strong that they're like vows. Okay, yeah, that we act upon. So we're not just like praying for them, but we're making these strong resolutions, and then we actually act upon them and do those things. Okay, so it's not about making prayers, it's not about taking precepts as in a vow. Yeah, but it's making strong determinations that then we act upon. So if we look, the medicine Buddha, they talk about sometimes the 12 great vows. So these 12 great aspirations, these 12 great resolutions or determinations of the medicine Buddha. The 48 ones of Amitabha. Yeah, the 10 of Samantabhadra, the 141 of Manjushri. So all these, Buddhas, when they were bodhisattvas, made these very strong aspirations to be able to benefit sentient beings in particular ways. And so because of those strong aspirations, like with Amitabha, that's why he was able to establish a Pure Land where beings who haven't realized emptiness can go. And same with medicine Buddha, because usually you can only be born in a Pure Land if you've realized emptiness, but they made these strong resolutions to have Pure Lands where everybody could come. And so because of that, then they're able to create those Pure Lands and help sentient beings in that kind of way. Yeah. When we read the King of Prayers, that's said to be the 10 aspirations of Samantabhadra. So it's real easy to see 7 of them, and there's 3 more in there, okay? So, so we pay homage and respect to all Buddhas. We see that at the beginning of it. We praise all Buddhas. That's the second one. Okay. The third one is making abundant offerings. Fourth one is confessing negativities. Fifth is rejoicing. Sixth is requesting the Buddhas to teach. Seventh is requesting them not to go to parinirvana. Okay, to remain in our world. Eighth is determination to follow the teachings of the Buddha at all times. That's a good determination, isn't it? That I'm going to follow the teachings of the Buddha at all times. The 9th one is to benefit and live harmoniously with all living beings. That's another good one. Make a strong determination to benefit and live harmoniously with all living beings. Okay, and then the last one is to dedicate all the merits and virtues for the benefit of sentient beings, all sentient beings. So those are the 10 of Samantabhadra. Bodhisattvas also make, aspirations that can't be actualized. So, for example, they make a determination to go to the hell realm to benefit even one sentient being, or they promise to lead each and every sentient being to full awakening by myself alone, or all these kind of, if you look at it, people may say, what an outlandish thing, I'm going to liberate all sentient beings, or I'm going to, like Taras, I'm going to empty the hell realms before I eat breakfast. I'm going to empty the hell realms, before I eat lunch. These kinds of, it seems outlandish, yeah, but that doesn't matter. Don't worry about it being outlandish, because the point is that the bigger we can expand our mind, the bigger we can think, and even, aspired to be able to do like this, then when we come across one sentient being who needs something, we're going to give. We're going to be able to help them. If we don't think so big, because, that's just unrealistic, or it's just too much, I can't do it, then we carry that same limited notion. And then when somebody comes and says, can I have a paper clip? We're like, I can't do that. It's,
Fine.
Okay. So, it's a very good practice in our meditation to just aspire so big and so wonderful, because it just broadens the mind so that we can actually do something when we come across an opportunity to be of service. Yeah? Instead of just saying, I can't do it, just me, Because if we have that, have you ever heard of a Buddha who acts like that? Yeah? I mean, how would you feel if you asked the Buddha, Buddha, teach me the Prajnaparamita Sutra. And Buddha sat there and went, I don't know, it's really kind of difficult. I'm not really qualified to do this. Yeah. That's not going to work, is it? Okay, so to really be able to benefit others, we have to have very strong self-confidence. And that comes through making these very big prayers and aspirations. Yeah?
But these aspiration prayers are also on the other bodhisattva crowns, right? So, but here on this crown, it's more...
It's surpassing.
Surpassing.
So, of course, all of the 10 far-reaching practices you're doing on all of the grounds. But here you're reaching a special ability.
Because you are rid of all the afflictions, it's more easy now. You have no hindrances anymore.
Probably, yeah, because you've eliminated the affliction, so quite easy. Okay, so as ordinary beings, of course, we may make these very big aspirations, but we also need to assess what we're capable of doing and only commit to what we're capable of doing. So we don't want to practice this so that whenever somebody says, can you do this project? Why, of course. Can you do that project? Yes. How about this one? Oh, sure. And then you promise everything, but in reality you don't have the capabilities or the time or the energy. So that's not what practicing this one is all about. Okay? As ordinary beings, we have to really stop and think and assess and, what are we capable of doing? Where are we most effective? Okay? But still, by making these aspirations, it strengthens the power of our mind so that we can do more and more. Okay, then the mode of taking fruitional rebirth on the 8th ground. It's the next outline. Having taken birth as a great Brahma, Lord who is foremost in the generality of the 1,000 worlds, one furthers the aims of sentient beings. So in the first jhana, it's called the Brahma. It's where the Brahma Devas are, so you're able to be born as one of them. And Brahma, in ancient India, is this highly respected god that thought he created the world and other people believed him. And, but he was the one who requested, together with others, requested the Buddha to teach. And we see in the Tara prayer, he also bows down to Tara. Okay? So, but you're able to be born as Brahma, and then you can do a lot of good for sentient beings. So, similarly in Nagarjuna's precious garland, it says, the 8th is the immovable, the youthful ground. Through non-conceptuality, the bodhisattva is immovable. So non-conceptuality refers to direct perception of emptiness. And the spheres of his or her body, speech, and mind's activities are inconceivable. Through the maturation of these qualities, he or she becomes a Brahma, Lord of 1,000 worlds. Foe destroyers and solitary realizers and so forth cannot surpass this bodhisattva in laying out the meaning of the doctrine. Okay, so in the ability to teach and lay out the meaning of the doctrine, this bodhisattva is really extraordinary, far surpassing the hearers and solitary realizers and the lower level bodhisattvas. So there is a reason for calling this ground the immovable, because through the force of having vanquished any chance for generating manifest conceptions of true existence. Jeffrey translates Zen as conception, like conceptions of true existence. I translate it as grasping, because conception makes us make me think, oh, I'm thinking about true existence, but it's much more subtle than that. Okay, so it's really grasping. It's something really innate holding. Yeah. Okay, so you've the force of having vanquished any chance for generating grasping, manifest grasping at true existence, and having thoroughly pacified coarse exertion, because the afflictions are gone. One is not moved by either the discrimination having signs. Having signs here refers to true existence, so the discrimination having signs is grasping at true existence, or signless discrimination having exertion. So you're not moved by the grasping at true existence or by a meditation on emptiness that still has exertion in it. Yeah, so you're beyond that, and that's why you're called immovable. Okay? You're not moved by either the grasping at true existence or by direct perception of emptiness that has exertion. Okay. Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutras says, because this bodhisattva is not moved by the two discriminations, he or she is definitely called the immovable. Immovable in Sanskrit is achala. That's how he got his name. Yeah, that's how Ach got his name. Nagarjuna's praise of the elements of qualities says, since this bodhisattva is definitely held by the Buddhas, enters the ocean of exalted wisdom, and is spontaneously without striving, he or she is not moved by the circle of demons. Okay, so held by the Buddhas, entering the ocean of exalted wisdom, and spontaneously, without exertion, without striving. So not affected by, here by demons it doesn't mean external beings, it means afflictions. Okay. So now we're on the ninth ground. So the ninth ground, good intelligence, that explanation also has 4 parts. So the mode of achieving qualities on the ninth ground. On this ground, one attains the 12 sets of good qualities, previously explained, equal to the number of minute particles of 10,100,000 countless realms of a great 1,000 billion worlds. So that's more than before. Then the mode of achieving power on the ninth ground. On this ground, just as the prince approaches being bestowed empowerment as regent. Yeah, so it's like King Charles or Prince Charles is getting closer and closer, So just like this bodhisattva approaches close to being bestowed the empowerment of great light rays. That's an empowerment on the 10th ground that somebody gets that takes them into Buddhahood. Having amassed the collection of merit for the sake of abandoning the course of the small latencies for mistaken dualistic appearance, one sees the sign of being able to abandon those. From within meditative equipoise on emptiness, one is able to go to the 10th ground. Okay, so after you come out of your meditation on the 9th ground, where you have abandoned the middle level of latencies cognitive obscurations. Then you accumulate merit, then you start meditating on emptiness again. When you get that sign or that feeling that your wisdom is going to be really strong, then that takes you into the uninterrupted path of the 10th ground, and then the liberated path of the 10th ground, where you eliminate the course of the course of the small latencies. You're on the 9th ground now. So when you do, after you accumulate merit and everything on the 9th ground, then that takes you into the 10th ground. Okay, and on the 10th ground you eliminate the course of the small. On the 9th ground you've already eliminated the middle. Okay? Then the mode of surpassing practice of a far-reaching practice on the 9th ground. One achieves a greatly surpassing practice of the perfection of power from the point of view of having come to have a potent capacity for definite achievement of the 6 far-reaching practices, not being overwhelmed by the discordant class of any of them. Okay, so you've come, it's called power, because it's a potent capacity to definitely achieve all of the far-reaching practices without being overwhelmed by the opposites of any of those far-reaching practices. So not being overwhelmed by miserliness, by poor ethical conduct, by anger, by laziness, by excitement and laxity, by ignorance, and so on. When they say discordant class, they mean the opposite. Okay? So there's many types of far-reaching power. So here's a few of the types. The power of no longer indulging in the afflictions because they have been abandoned. The power of superior thought to train in the exalted wisdom of an Arya Bodhisattva. The power of remembering all the Dharma teachings we have heard or read. Wouldn't that one be nice? The power to remain in deep concentration without being distracted, no matter what we are doing. The power of knowing the behavior of each sentient being in countless realms will give you a real head start on being of benefit to them. The power to fulfill all our aims. The power of being skilled in distinguishing and examining the Buddha's qualities. So you're really coming to have a very good idea of what a Buddha is and what Buddha's qualities are. The power not to give up engaging in the Buddha's deeds. The power to completely ripen the Buddha's qualities within ourselves and others. The power of great love that protects all sentient beings without bias. The power of great compassion to eliminate all suffering of all sentient beings without bias. The power to actualize within ourselves the experience of ultimate reality that is like an illusion. Okay? And the power of approaching the exalted wisdom of omniscience by all means. So there's all these different kinds of power, and that's what, you've attained the surpassing perfection of that. Okay, then the mode of taking fruitional rebirth on the 9th ground. Having taken rebirth as a great Brahma, Lord of a million worlds, one accomplishes the aims of sentient beings. So this is a higher state of Brahma than before. In this way, Nagarjuna's precious garland says, the 9th ground is called good intelligence. Like a regent, the Bodhisattva has attained correct individual knowledge and therefore has good intelligence on this ground. So this term, individual knowledge, I'm not sure what the Tibetan is. It's probably something like Sosor Rigpa or something like that. But it means like a very refined ability to individually, you know, analyze or discriminate different things so that you can know things really well. And, you know, instead of like this fuzzy, it's all one gray blob, it's, you know, you can individually know things and discriminate things in a very subtle way. So that's why this, this ground is called the intelligent. Okay? Through the maturation of these qualities, the Bodhisattva becomes a Brahma who is master of a million worlds. Foe destroyers and so forth cannot surpass him or her in responding to questions in the thoughts of sentient beings. Okay? So this Bodhisattva, you know, goes beyond what hears and solitary realizers and foe destroyers, arhats, can do in terms of knowing what questions and doubts sentient beings have. So that's a really, you know, if you have that ability to know that through, you know, knowing others' minds and all, then you can teach so well because you know exactly where somebody's stuck, exactly what they need to know, so you can just answer their question even before they've said it. Yeah? So quite good ability to have. Yeah, if we want to benefit sentient beings. Mm-hmm.
So then about this point, are these bodhisattvas still just needing to deepen their understanding of emptiness and meditative equipoise?
Yeah, well, they're still strengthening. Yeah, strengthening their strengthening the force of their wisdom, so that their wisdom can remove deeper and deeper levels of obscurations. Okay, so there is a reason for calling this ground good intelligence, because one attains the good intelligence of the four individual correct knowledges and cannot be surpassed by hearers and solitary realizer, foe destroyers, so the arhats, from the point of view of internal contradictions or mistakes and so forth, with respect to thoughts or questions in the minds of trainees. Okay. So you're not going to, you know, your intelligence can't be surpassed by the arhats from the point of view of having, you know, falling prey to internal contradictions or mistakes with respect to the thoughts or questions in the minds of trainees. So I'm not sure if point of view of internal so forth with respect to thoughts and questions. So I'm not sure if it's that the thoughts and questions of in the minds of trainees have internal contradictions and mistakes, or that's probably true. But from the side of this bodhisattva, you don't fall into any kind of obscuration about knowing what their doubts and questions are. Here it mentions the four correct knowledges. So there's a footnote that says it refers to the knowledge of names, functions, the mode of abiding, which is emptiness, and fearlessness. Okay. Maitreya's ornament for the Mahayana Sutras says, because it has the good intelligence of the individual correct knowledges, this ground is that of good intelligence. So if you know names and functions of things, then you know a lot about conventional truths. You know what to call them, how to communicate, you know how they function and work together. If you know their mode of abiding, emptiness, then you're not going to be grasping at them as true existence, and you know how they how they really exist. And then fearlessness is probably something about, you know, being fearless in front, you know, or having great confidence in one's ability, in one's knowledge and one's ability. Okay, so Nagarjuna's praise of the element of quality says, since this yogi has completed all the individual correct knowledges and sermons teaching the doctrine, this ground is asserted as that of good intelligence. Okay, so you kind of You're almost a big know-it-all at this point. Yeah, there's advantages to being a know-it-all, don't you think? You can do so much good for sentient beings. And the thing is, you're not conceited about it. You're not all puffed up about it. Okay, should we go on to the 10th ground? Do you have questions? Yeah.
Do they know the listings of the 141,000 in the writings?
Yeah, let me see. There was something about that. Hold on. I think it may be in the Avatamsaka Sutra. 46. Yeah, it's found in the Pure Conduct chapter of the Avatamsaka Sutra. So I've never seen a list of that, but if we look in the sutra, we should be able to find it. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, then we'll go on to the 10th ground. So the explanation of the 10th ground is called that ground is called the cloud of doctrine. Cloud of doctrine. You don't have your text?
It's in meditation.
Oh. So it also has four outlines. So the first is the mode of achieving qualities on the 10th ground. So on this ground, one achieves the 12 sets of qualities, previously explained, equal to the number of subtle particles in an inexpressible number of an inexpressible number of Buddha lands. Okay. So they say this, the 10th ground bodhisattva, this is as close as you get to Buddhahood while still being a sentient being. So, this 10th ground bodhisattva is really something quite magnificent, beyond our ability to think or conceptualize. Then the mode of achieving majesty of power on the 10th ground. As soon as one attains this ground, the Buddhas of the 10 directions bestow the empowerment of great light rays, whereby one becomes a lofty regent of the ones gone thus. In other words, the Tathagatas. He becomes a lofty regent. So regent is, like the one who's going to take power next. Yeah, so the 10th Bhumi Bodhisattva he's almost there, she's almost there. Okay, so they become a lofty regent of the ones gone thus, the kings of the doctrine. It's referring to the Buddha. In subsequent attainment, so after they've come out of their meditative equipoise, in which they've eliminated the coarse small cognitive obscurations, one achieves a similitude of a Buddha's mode of acting for the sake of others. So it's almost exactly like the Buddha's, but it's a similitude, okay? Whereby one finishes very quickly the accumulation of the collection of merit that takes 3 periods of countless great eons. So you're almost at the end of your accumulation of merit for 3 countless great eons. So now it goes real quick. Yeah. Then one actualizes the Vajra-like meditative stabilization. The Mahayana path of meditation, which is the actual antidote to the very subtle latencies for mistaken dualistic appearance. In the next moment, one is able to pass to the Buddha's ground. So, you've gone from the 9th ground, to the 10th ground on the uninterrupted path, the liberated path. You've gotten rid of the coarse latencies of mistaken dualistic appearances. Then you accumulate merit some more. Okay. Then you enter the second uninterrupted path on the 10th ground. The 10th ground has 2 uninterrupted paths. So that second uninterrupted path is called the Vajra-like meditative stabilization, and that's the last mind of a sentient being. And that is the meditative stabilization that eliminates the subtle, small cognitive obscurations. So the last very, very subtle stains on the mind stream is eliminated, and you don't have another liberated path on the 10th ground. Your liberated path is Buddhahood. Okay, so that's the end of the Mahayana path of meditation, the end of the 10th ground, and the next moment, it's your first moment of full omniscience. One day we will do that. Okay.
Well, what was that? Vajra-like?
Vajra-like meditative stabilization. Okay, so that's the one that completely eliminates all the other latency, the subtle latencies, all the mistaken dualistic appearances. And so, because these mistaken dualistic appearances prevent you from knowing the 2 truths simultaneously. So, from the time that you're on the path of seeing, you know the 2 truths. You perceive emptiness, you know conventional realities. You don't know conventionalities completely, but you do see the 2 truths. But you can't see them simultaneously, because there's still this mistaken dualistic appearance, this appearance of true existence, so that when you're meditating on emptiness, you can't perceive conventionalities. When you're perceiving conventional truths, you can't be in direct equipoise, have direct perception of emptiness at that time. Yeah, so eliminating that, then you can have both. Okay, so the mode of surpassing practice of a perfection on the 10th ground, since one has gained a similitude of the Buddha's eye of wisdom, for which all the secrecies, or all the secrets of the conqueror's speech are not hidden, one achieves a greatly surpassing practice of the perfection of exalted wisdom, within which, completely apprehending by oneself the words and meanings of the high speech, one ripens others. Okay, so you have this similitude on the 10th ground of a Buddha's wisdom eye, and to that wisdom eye, the 3 secrets, the body, speech, and mind of a Buddha, are not secrets, they're obvious. So you're almost there where you're able to perceive these things, as a Buddha does. So you have the greatly surpassing practice of far-reaching exalted wisdom. That's Yeshi. Wisdom is Sherab or Prajna. Yeshi is exalted wisdom, or what's it in Sanskrit? Jnana must be. Yeah. No. Her. I'll look it up. Okay, so completely apprehending by yourself, okay, without a dictionary, without Wikipedia, the words and meanings of the high speech. In other words, the words and meanings of the Buddha's speech, so you apprehend them completely and correctly, and by that, then you can ripen other sentient beings' minds. Okay, so ripening sentient beings' minds means leading them along the path, making them more receptive. Okay, so you can see as this bodhisattva is going through there's 2 things going on. One is they're abandoning and purifying obscurations, and the second is they're developing or cultivating good qualities. So we often talk about the abandonments and realizations of a Buddha, because both those processes have gone on. Okay, So in the context of the far-reaching practices, Asanga says that knowing the diversity of phenomena, that means conventional truths, is far-reaching exalted wisdom. Okay? While the wisdom of meditative equipoise on emptiness, the ultimate truth, is far-reaching wisdom. So when we have the 10 far-reaching practices, the 6th one is wisdom, the 10th one is exalted wisdom. So the 6th one's perceiving ultimate truths, the 10th one is perceiving conventional truths. So what this is also emphasizing is that it's so important as a Buddha, not just that you perceive emptiness, but that you also know conventional truths. Because it's through knowing conventional truths that you know how to teach people and talk to people and guide them and explain things to them and make good examples, and you know how to work with people's karma, you know how to work with the elements and the environment. You can do so much to benefit sentient beings. So it's not just about realizing emptiness. It's about, really understanding the conventional truths accurately too. Yeah, because sometimes we get, convention, earlier on the path, all these conventional truths, all the objects, the 5 senses, they're so distracted, they poison my mind, I have to renounce them, I just want to realize emptiness and have single-pointed concentration on that. So that happens towards the beginning of the path. But then, after you have the direct realization of emptiness, it's like you go back and I got to learn everything now if I'm going to really benefit others. I can't just stay in a cave and know about how to cook nettles. I have to know everything. Yeah? Okay, so maybe we'll pause here, and then next week we'll finish up the 10th ground and finish up the text too. Yes?
Say again, the far-reaching exalted wisdom was Yeshe.
Exalted wisdom is Yeshi. That's the 10th one.
Yeah, and then the regular one is
Sherab.
Sherab. And the Prajna?
Prajna is, that's it. Prajna is Sherab, and Jhana must be Yeshi. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Jhana is Yeshi. J-N with a squiggle, A-N-A. Yeah. Yeah.
Just into the sentence where it says one ripens others, so is that a different kind of ripening than what we would experience in our lives when we have a teacher that says certain things and it really goes in and we really feel like we really get something?
Well, I think that's what this Bodhisattva is really good at doing. And they're good at ripening the minds of all levels of sentient beings. So they don't teach just, kind of the nincompoops, but they're also teaching the Arya Bodhisattvas. Yeah? So they're ripening the minds of the Arya Bodhisattvas. So you have to be pretty sharp to teach an Arya Bodhisattva. The nincompoops maybe, not so difficult.
Are we the nincompoop?
I'm not sure we've gotten to that path yet.
The path of nincompoops. Yeah. Okay. See, we've actualized some path. Is that a German word, nincompoop? No? It's nothing similar in German?
So, I remember a couple of weeks ago I was asking about the bodies of the bodhisattvas, and you said on the path of seeing you could attain the
Mental body, yeah.
But in this last moment on the 10th path, just before becoming a Buddha, you've got the mental body.
Yeah, you've had the mental body by then. And so that's a very subtle body, that's the nature of mind. And so then the next moment when you attain the Buddha's Dharmakaya, you also have the Buddha's Rupakaya, the form body.
So
okay.
in a human body though,
Right,
as
right. We'll see, when we talk about the bodhisattva getting born as Brahma or whatever, they take that kind of body. That body acts as the basis for that bodhisattva. So you could be in a human body, but your mind is completely incomprehensible to the rest of us. Yeah.
And at the end there, you said, wisdom sees emptiness directly. Exalted wisdom sees and understands conventional truth.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be that.
No, that's what I was saying. That wisdom is on the 6th ground, and that's on the understanding of emptiness. And then when I said that it's not only about understanding emptiness, we have to know conventionalities really well to benefit sentient beings. So that's why the exalted wisdom that knows conventionalities is on the 10th ground. That's when you really reach it in a surpassing way.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay? Yeah.
Can you see, as a bodhisattva at this level, can you see your past lives?
Oh yeah, you can do that way before. Yeah. And you also have the ability to endure seeing your past lives. You know, people think, oh yeah, I think my past lives must be great, you know. I was Cleopatra, I was, you know, Mark Anthony.
Right.
You know, it's got to be really scary seeing some of your past lives. Yeah.
Yeah, so on the 8th ground, you abandon or eliminate all afflictions or seeds that have to go along with rebirth. Never again, you have those.
Yeah.
And so previous to that, what kind of body do bodhisattvas have that goes through birth and death?
Okay, they still have, they haven't eliminated all of the karma that causes rebirth and cyclic existence, but from the path of seeing onward, when they've realized direct emptiness directly onward, by the power of their compassion and their wisdom, at the time of death they can direct their minds into where they want to be reborn. So they have full power over the rebirth process.
But they do take some sort of body still.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's...
But out of compassion.
You have to choose, oh, okay, got it.
Out of compassion,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
That word jhana, that's a funny word. I think of jhanas as meditative states.
That's J-H-A-N-A. This is J-N, let's go A-N-A. They're spelled differently. Jhana and jhana. 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 Yeah, my Sanskrit pronunciation isn't very good.
I'm glad to know there's two different words.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So let's dedicate, and then next week we'll attain Buddhahood.